Absolutely. I'm going to just take 15 seconds to acknowledge 9 years ago, I think it was one of my very first SF MusicTech panels with John Meyer, Deanne Franklin, and Greg Looper. And I happen, thankfully, to be in Greg's studio right now. I'm broadcasting from his studio, so I want to have a moment of remembering all of that fun times with you guys. We are doing a wonderful panel today. My name's Heather Rafter. I was the general counsel of DigiDesign. If any of you were on the panel with Will Henschel, we were the company back in the day that bought Rocket. So there's a sense of reminiscing going on in my head between early days with MusicTech and seeing Will. Today we are here, we only have 20 minutes to talk about a very relevant topic that I care deeply about, which is, sorry, I had an interruption. We're gonna talk about how to get money. And in this time of COVID, the stimulus package is available and how we can help you do that. So we're going to begin. One more thing I should say about myself. Right now, I'm also a lawyer. I run a small law firm, RafterMarsh, and we represent a lot of musicians and companies in the live sound and studio space. So again, this is a topic so near and dear to my heart. And I just really feel the pain of what's going on for everyone who's a musician or crew right now. But we're going to give you some cheer, hopefully, with our panelists. And we're going to begin with Sully. Sean Sullivan. Sully is one of those rock star front of house touring engineers. He's the first person. I always beg for tickets to go to a concert. I've met him out on tour with Norah Jones, Chili Peppers. The list goes on. And Sully can tell you a little bit about himself. And I really admire the fact that he is going to speak about his own experience going from the very top of our industry as a front of house engineer to everyone high up, and now looking for money during these times. So Sully, if you're willing to share your experiences, I'd really appreciate that.
Hi, everybody. How you guys doing today? Briefly, I'm a 30-year veteran in the live touring industry. I do studio work as well, but mostly my bread is buttered from the live touring industry. Heather asked me to speak about where the relief's coming from and how to get some relief in these trying times. And of course, we, in the live sound industry, we all know that we should save and have, a length of time budgeted aside for the work when it's not there. Winter times are always kind of dark for live touring musicians and that kind of thing. And I've done that myself. I've saved. I've currently been off since the middle of December. I was working for Shania Twain last year and just started with Rage Against the Machine in March when COVID showed up and shut everything down. So the first thing I did was I went through all the list of, I think somebody here has the list in the chat that you can go through. There's quite an extensive list of resources available for financial help. For myself, not many of them worked out because there was very strict wording about being a musician and proof that you were a musician. My biggest help, the two main sources were Crew Nation through Live Nation and Music Cares. Music Cares was the first one I applied for. I got a hold of the list very early on, and I sent all my, the relevant data that they were requesting, and I got Music Cares almost immediately. Within like 2 or 3 weeks, I got $1,000 from Music Cares, and the Live Nation one I filled out probably pretty close to the same time, and that took a little longer to get. There's an extensive list of information that Live Nation requests. I know a few of my friends are a bit reluctant to turn everything over to Live Nation. Live Nation's a big bad wolf in this industry, and everybody's kind of scared they're going to have this database of what everybody makes now and that kind of stuff. But I didn't really care. I went for it. I filled it out and got the money. I was approved. The tour, I was obviously doing Rage Against the Machine, which Live Nation had quite a few dates with them. So it was very easy to prove that my work was affected by it. And probably within 2 weeks of filling it out, the application for that, I got the money from Crew Nation, which was also $1,000. I'm currently also collecting unemployment. I'm not self-employed. I've worked as on payroll for most artists. I started my business at the end of last year due to the Trump tax plan. I kind of had to go down that, LLC path to be able to do the write-offs and stuff that we used to be able to do. But my business was too young to qualify for a PPP loan. And so I'm on unemployment currently. And Music Cares and Live Nation have been the only support I've received, which was, you know, better than nothing. So I'll take it.
Thank you. Any tips about, were there any roadblocks, things that you can tell people to expedite the process that you learned through Music Cares or Crew Nation?
No, it was pretty straightforward. You know, the application was what it was, and the information that was requested, as long as you filled it out accurately and had, you know, a real reason, you weren't just, you know, full of crap saying I worked for this person. And, you know, because obviously Live Nation, they're the big hitters. They know what's kind of going on. And even my band, you know, Rage Against the Machine, they weren't on 100% Live Nation tour, but I think Live Nation had quite a few dates. So it was easy to check the work and check my data that I gave them. And once the stuff was in there, and they called our production manager to confirm that, yes, I was who I say I was. And once that was done, I got an email saying, you know, you were approved and the funds would be coming as soon as possible.
Well,
It's pretty
Sully,
easy, actually.
Can I ask a quick question? Just because I manage George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic, do you have to be an employee of Live Nation, or is this for anybody who just happens to have shows that were booked by Live Nation?
It didn't even have to be shows that were booked by Live Nation. You just had to be able to prove that your shows were canceled or postponed because of COVID-19. And it didn't matter if it was, you know, even if you were a small regional band that was, you know, touring around a 3-state area, as long as you had proof of dates that existed and that are now gone away, and someone that was a superior of yours that they could email and contact and say, is this person who they say are, and is this, you know, data that they presented to us real, then they would, for most people I know, got approved. Now, there were a couple people, video technicians that were on large Live Nation tours, that were on the Billie Eilish tour, that did not get approved, and they don't know why. I don't know why. Live Nation didn't give them any reason why, so they just weren't approved. So for most part, everybody I know that's applied has gotten approved.
that's great. So I really want to thank Sully again. He, again, is at the highest pinnacle of front of houseness that you can imagine, and the fact that he's willing to come here, also taking care of his dad who's sick, and talk about his own personal experiences and looking for money now is phenomenal. And it just points to a bigger topic of the need of our industry to protect our own and figure out how to handle this better going forward. And that will be another topic another day on how we can do that. Meanwhile, in the chat box, thank you, Niram, she can wave. We have a list of resources that Sully combed through and found the ones relevant to Crew. There's other resources available to musicians. And Niram, who's a law clerk for my firm, RafterMarsh, was kind enough to update it with a Google Doc on who still has money and any other information she discovered. Anything more on that, Niram?
Not really. It's a bit to the point. I think one thing is some of them may not have funds available now, but on their website it says they will have additional funds in a few months. So while their website doesn't have applications open now, I would check back in July, actually. A lot of them said July or June.
Thank you. I put my email address, and if you want to get on a list for updates, we're planning to expand our knowledge and expertise in this area, but we only have 8 minutes left. So I want to turn this over to Colin Doyle, who is actually my own personal accountant, who is helping me navigate my firm looking for sources of assistance. But primarily, he's been helping my clients on PPP and how to navigate the process of not only getting funds, but once you get them, how to qualify for loan forgiveness. And he's just been fantastic. And I've recommended him to everyone I can. So with that, Colin, you're somehow going to have to condense this into 6 minutes so he can take some questions.
Absolutely. Thank you everyone for having me. Colin Doyle, I own a family-owned tax and accounting firm, and I've kind of transitioned into being a specialist in the PPP, SBA, EIDL, and all the variations that has. I'm ambassador with the community and I serve on a few boards, so it's an absolute pleasure to be of service and help people. I right outside Los Angeles, so I have a large segment of clients in the entertainment world, in the music area as well, in Santa Monica. As many of you may be aware, there's the SBA, the EIDL, the PPP, and the ERC loan pieces that are part of the CARES Act that's recently come out. That gives you direct funding for bridge loans and SBA that are repayable. And it also gives you grant money that is not repayable. I will quickly share my screen here.
And we will make available all these slides if you just email me.
Perfect. A little bit about me, some things I do here in the community, and I will go over navigating some of the CARES Act pieces here. As mentioned, there's the stimulus piece that everyone should be receiving. If you haven't yet, you probably will shortly, unless your income's phased over the 100,000 mark. We have extensions of tax filings, unemployment assistance for W-2 employees with an add-on piece, as well as something brand new that they actually offer unemployment for self-employed individuals, something that's never existed before in the history. So that is a new avenue that's available for people. That also factors in royalty income that you may get from playing from the replays of music. That actually factors into the self-employed elements as well. If you're smart and you took advantage of some of the Trump tax law pieces and you formed an S corporation, that's a little more complicated, but that still gives you benefits in the self-employed elements as well. The Sba loans are really more of a bridge loan. This piece has a potential for a 30-year repayment, anywhere from 1 to around 4%. Not necessarily the most attractive piece of what's offered out there, but it is pretty easily funded, and the SBA is still getting back to people right now. So if you've applied for that, you may still be getting information, and they're refunding some of that. And a lot of companies have paid back money. There's also a HEROES Act that will be coming out in the next month or two for additional loans that will be subsidized for those that need it. There is the $10,000 grant piece that was later turned into a $1,000 per employee. Pretty small benefit for that. If you got in on time, you would have got that money. Many people didn't. And if you haven't gotten it by now, you most likely won't. One of the best pieces we have here is the Paycheck Protection Program. And that's the PPP loan, which is otherwise referred to as the non-repayable grant. That is directly tied to, there's 3 main sectors to how that is, and it's very, very confusing because the distribution channel for those funds actually go through banks. So they get to overlay their own rules and criteria on top of that. If you have an established relationship with one of the major banks out there, you will get, they will only factor in typically payroll filings. So if you don't have a lot of employees, you probably had a really hard time getting through. Original big banks were only funding large loans, like over $500,000. They got into a lot of trouble for that. And so now smaller entities are allowed to be funded as well. One of the things that might benefit a lot of people here is there's actually an alternative method you can be applying for the Paycheck Protection Program, which is fintechs. You'll see that out there with Cabbage and PayPal and other companies like that. Part of the CARES Act was that they actually allowed the PPP funds to be for self-employed individuals as well as just ones that have a group of employees. But the banks weren't offering that when they were allowing it for people. So the fintech sources will take into effect all of your self-employment income and actually give you benefits for that. One thing I do want to draw a lot of attention to is recently they've released guidance in the last week on how to support paperwork to comply to make sure that those loans are not repayable. And the criteria for fulfilling the grant aspect, non-repayables, is pretty tricky. I'll be happy to provide some worksheets, things that you guys can take yourself. I'll be happy to guide anyone through that. But the compliance side is dramatically different from the application side. So just pay a lot of attention to that if you did get a PPP loan. There's also been a lot of attention out there that the PPP loans money is out. There is actually still a fair amount of money in the PPP loans. Larger franchises like McDonald's and other entities took a big lion's share of it. They got in a bit of trouble and then they got paid back. And then they refunded it with a few hundred extra $1 billion. And then they also are having a HEROES Act now, which will probably extend that. It's looking like it's probably going to be extended through the end of the year, and they'll probably be doubling some of the funds. So that will be made available pretty shortly. Last little piece they have here is the employee retention credit, which just allows employers to have a discount on the payroll tax expense piece. Some people don't qualify for the PPP loans because of the verbiage, like cannabis industries and other areas. So you will qualify for the employee retention credits. Here I have a little bit about the Sba Loans, the Paycheck Protection Program, and the Employee Retention Credit, and then the $10,000 grant aspect that's later turned to $1,075 grant for fulfillment of the PPP. They want you to spend the money in very specific ways. And a few other pieces on here on how to guide some of those elements and the seriousness of the PPP loans. I know I went through that pretty quickly. I had about 6 minutes on here, and so I wanted to gloss through some of the basic mechanics.
That's amazing that you did that. So we have actually 2 minutes to go. Colin, feel free to type your email in the chat box too, so people can either go through me or you. Colin, Sully, and I are going to try to do a longer program on this in the next week or two. So if you send us your email, we'll be sure to send you a link to that. And does anyone have a specific question they would like to ask right now? Someone pointed out musiccovidrelief.com. I don't know if that's something, Sully, that you looked into, or Shoshana?
I did not. I have not seen that.
Okay, well, that might be a good.
I'm learning so much right now.
Niram will add that to our list and we'll make that available. So we might just be on time. Does anyone have a question? And Shoshana can unmute you. We can take one question. All right, well, I think you explained it really well. So we are really here to help everyone who's on this panel. And this is our heart, the live music industry, the music industry supporting the crew and the musicians. So I do a lot of pro bono in this area. And if any one of us can help you, please don't hesitate, because we want to see everyone get through this and get back to the happiness of live concerts. I think that's it.
Yeah, so I'm just waiting. I think Laura Sylvia's in the room, but I don't see her now.
Sully, any final thoughts? What's you gonna
yeah,
go out with Rage? When's Rage going out?
If anybody needs an audio engineer, I'm available.
I need you for my yoga program. So
and streaming as well. I'm currently we're doing a lot of research on how to do live streaming with audio as well. So if anybody needs any help with that, hit me up.
Okay, and I was kidding. Never ask him for free tickets, not even for the upcoming Rage tour. Never. I never have. Never.
The Rage tour is untouchable. There's no tickets available for that.
You say that every tour, Sully.
Just to you.
All right, Colin, Niram, thank you. Niram is going to continue to update the resource list and shoot us with your emails. And thank you so much, Brian and Shoshana, for letting us do this panel.